After seeing that I had a copy of The Horologicon by Mark Forsyth and that I was participating in NaNoWriMo last year, Icon Books contacted me about The Elements of Eloquence by Mark Forsyth. It seemed like a book that I'd be particularly interested in and might find useful when it comes to writing, so I was sent a copy of this book in exchange for an honest review, which is exactly what I'll be doing today. The Elements of Eloquence: How to Turn the Perfect English Phrase. This book is about writing style and sentence structure. It covers a range of techniques or rhetorics from both the present day literature and also throughout history, from Katy Perry song lyrics and James Bond film quotes to Shakespearean plays and even the Bible. And in this book, Mark Forsyth goes into detail about why certain rhetorics work and are so memorable, or maybe why they aren't so effective when used in various ways. Now, I'm not one to read much non-fiction outside of school. I find that textbooks are really tedious and quite boring, and I've struggled to find any non-fiction works that really stand apart from this, but this book was so amusing and enlightening. It was really easy to read and just so entertaining. Mark Forsyth's writing style, it's so witty and humorous. He plays around with the techniques that he's talking about in each chapter, making kind of examples of them. He also utilizes footnotes in some really funny ways, and just he makes a bunch of little jokes throughout the whole book, and quite often I found myself constantly giggling. It's really entertaining. But there's also a lot to learn from this book. Some of the techniques I'd heard of before, but definitely not to the extent that Forsyth describes them in, and most of the devices you've never even heard before. Surprisingly, you'll find that you recognize a lot of them, but you just didn't know that they were really techniques. So this book kind of sheds light on why so many of these techniques and devices are really quite effective, and also how they're used in both literature and poetry, making them really stand out, but also in more commercial mediums, like in song lyrics, in advertisements, and even propaganda. Because each chapter is a different technique, you don't have to read it in chronological order. You can kind of go flipping through, check out the contents page and see if there's anything that particularly strikes your fancy or you want to know a little bit more about. But I personally found it really interesting reading it chapter by chapter, because Mark Forsyth links each technique to the next chapter. He provides an example of that chapter's technique, but also is an example of another technique which he proceeds to talk about in the next few pages, which I thought was really, really interesting and would have taken quite a long time to kind of piece together, but it worked really well in kind of making the whole thing flow together, so it didn't feel like you're kind of going technique. It just it really worked and made it so much more easy to read when reading in fewer sittings as well. I feel like this book is really useful to so many kinds of people, those that are studying literature and those that are writing themselves in whatever kind of form that may be. I myself am going to be keeping this close by when uni comes around, because I'm majoring in English, so I'll be studying a lot of English texts, so I think this will really definitely come in handy. But also, again, because I enjoy writing, so throughout the year when I'm writing, and also during NaNoWriMo, or maybe after NaNoWriMo when it's kind of like the editing stage, I think it'll be really helpful. I think it's just a really, really useful tool for kind of understanding how the English language works and why certain sentence structures sound better than other ones and kind of stick in your mind a little more. And as you can see, I have a lot of sticky notes all over the place. I marked out a bunch of passages that I found really useful, both for now and in the future, and whenever I came across something that I didn't know before, something new or interesting or just particularly funny, I just chucked a little sticky note here. So it'll be really interesting kind of going back and seeing what I found particularly entertaining when I was reading this book. So for all book lovers, all English lovers, I really think this is a handy dandy book, because I think you'll definitely find that you've learned something new from this, but it's just so much fun. And I don't think you have to read this in order to kind of use it when studying or writing. It'd just be a really good read for just purely entertainment purposes. So yeah, if you are interested in this book, I'll leave links down below so you can find out a little more information about it and if you want to buy it. But overall, really enjoyed this, and I'm going to be constantly flicking back through these pages. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this review. If you've read this book or any other of Mark Forsyth's works, feel free to leave your opinions and comments and stuff down below. I'd love to hear from you. And that is all. I will see you guys next time.